Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 1st Township Board Study Session. We got three things to go over tonight. We're going to talk about an entrance audit. We're going to talk about employee compensation and benchmarking for benefits. And we're going to talk about, from the policies and procedures, purchasing, bidding, and so forth, and we'll get into that. We'll do it in order. Being a study session, I would like to hear from all of you if you have input, obviously. And there's obviously no time limit here we're doing, but I think we should be able to hit each one a half hour, 45 minutes, and come up with some type of solution. We need some type of consensus of where we're going with some of these goals. And on the last one, I hope that you reviewed. Derek had the managers at one of the managers' meeting go over what they believed would be helpful in the bidding process, what would help them out. Obviously, like everything else, everything's gone up, and some things would be beneficial for us to change, I do believe. So we'll handle that at the end. So let's first go over, number one, we're going to talk about the entrance audit, and I just want to give a little summation here. About 4 years ago, I looked into this. I was a trustee, obviously, at the time, and what we were looking for with a brand-new board coming in, we wanted a clean slate to know that everything was in its place, doing correctly. We hired, and I apologize, Teresa, a year and a half? When did you start?
Almost 2 years ago.
I'm close.
Huh?
I said I'm close.
Yes.
That was good.
In 2 weeks.
She was hired approximately 2 years ago, and Teresa and her efforts have gone through, and we made probably with Teresa finding it, not us, we just agreed, some changes. She found some areas that needed to be changed when it came to the funds. Nothing, again, this was just policy and procedural wise, nothing else. And I think that she's done a great job in finding some of the problems and correcting them. So we're still looking at today. This was pre-Teresa that I looked into this. This was pre-Teresa when we got in. And then when this new board started, we had a lot of them. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to take the blame for this because I started it. But we had so many big things coming down the fire, especially the toll bridge. And we wanted to make sure, and Derek and I know Derek was working, and along with Teresa and even others, but I know Derek was working not as 40 hours. It was 50, 55 hours a week. And as a supervisor, but this is what I signed up for. I don't have a problem with it. I was working about 40 hours a week too on this. So everything else wasn't secondary, but we had to prioritize because that was the most important thing for Grosse Seal at the time for the residents. So with that said, let's start. Who would like to start with their thoughts? And we have a sheet here where we got resumes. Unfortunately, there was only 3 that we received after putting the RFP out. So who would like to start?
I mean, I can start if you like.
Yeah, that'd be
So
good.
I think I've kind of gone back and forth on this entrance audit thing. So I think it's, we don't suspect criminality, and we don't have a specific spot we want them to look. We think maybe there was some bad policy or mismanaged items or missed things, but in theory, Teresa has caught and corrected that. So I don't see a ton of value in just doing a broad audit. I think we would have to either go very deep or we would have to have a specific thing we're targeting. Otherwise, they're just going to tell us, like, yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, you guys could have done this better. And it's like, well, we're doing that better now. So I've got some concern about the scope, I guess, and depth of it.
Good. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Would like to talk?
Oops, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Mark.
No, we'll go to Margaret.
Margaret?
I'm going to be really quick. So I am going to echo what Jameson said. I feel the same way. I initially thought it was something I would, want us to look into, but I feel very comfortable with the fact that we've gone through several audits. Teresa has assured us that everything is where it needs to be. Things have been corrected that were perhaps not in the same alignment we would have wanted them to be. And to Jameson's point, I'm not clear on the scope of this or the need for it, but I'm willing to listen. So I'm good.
Mark?
So I think we should move forward with it. We need to pick a firm to do it. I understand that we've had all this done here, and Teresa has done a great job. I'm not going to take anything away from her, but we don't know what we don't know. December 9th of last year, Joe, we talked about this at the very first meeting, and you talked about drilling down and peeling back the layers of the onion, so to speak, and I agree with that 100% on that particular aspect. I don't want to go into a lot of detail now. I'm going to save that and reserve that if we move forward for the firm that we pick. But I do have specific concerns. It goes back a couple administrations, and I think we need to take a deep look at things and to see if there was any improprieties done at that particular time. I have a company in mind I would like to use, but I want to hear what everybody else has to say as well. I guess we're not going to vote on anything tonight regardless, but I still think we should move forward with this particular project.
All right, very good, sir. How about this side? And like Kevin, I'm sorry, we're still on your side. Kevin? Good. Mickey?
So Joe, after looking at our financials for the township and having that discussion about how our current auditors look at anything that's material, I went back through, I spent today going through the thicker book with all the backup, and I'm just not seeing any concerns. I saw one thing and it said that Teresa had fixed it. I can't remember if it was on the 457 plan or something, was it? And so, I mean, the lowest that I see that was quoted was 60 grand. And I just think we could use that 60 grand in other places, for example, raises or, getting people in line with total compensation. I also think that internally, as we're going through these things, that we can look ourselves at implementing additional internal controls and tightening up our policies, just as we go through different projects. So I'm not interested in pursuing this.
Okay. William, anything?
Yes, I've got some thoughts on it.
Sure.
When I opened this agreement just not that long ago, just to review some of this, I found on the first page something that I found interesting. Right up front, the technical proposal has a detailed audit plan that says procurement and accounts payable, human resources and payroll, revenue and management, budget management, asset management, general oversight. Those are things we're working with and dealing with and investigating, and our agenda in these recent days have been facing those issues. And on this occasion, I looked at it out of one side of my head and said, gee, this is an opportunity to learn more. And that might be good. But when I look at the cost page and I realize where we are, then I have another question in my mind at that point. I would like to see an audit. I would like to learn from an audit by professionals who have done it. I don't know that the money that we're talking about here is affordable. I'm told this isn't in the budget. We have to go and take the money from our savings account. I'm worried that our savings account isn't big enough already, and is this worthy of something in case an emergency comes up? We've gone to emergency funds. I vacillate on that. I like the idea. I think that as I listen to what you're saying and not taking into account in recent conversations that other improvements have been made, and we have multiple goals here that we have to address when we're looking at something, I would think that I still think I'm going to vote for it, but at the same time, I wouldn't be disappointed if I was shot down. And I would like to suggest that we try to put it into the budget for next year, because I think the dollars spent to teach us to do things better, I'm not talking about castigating anyone, I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about the fact that when we learn to do it better, we save big bucks. And that opportunity might be there if we take advantage of it.
Thank you, William. Since I started, I was going to go last. Kevin, would you like anything, or what would you? you're good? Okay. Teresa, is there anything, or I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but is there anything you'd like to say, or do you have any input before I give mine?
So when we approved the budget for the current year, we had excess funds at that time of about $312,000. That was with the presumption that we would have the proceeds from the sale of the Dallas property. Since then, we have also looked at the purpose for which to use those funds, meaning the property on Macomb Street. So that wipes out those proceeds. There have been several other things that have come up, which is natural because we don't know everything in February and March. So with the things that have come up, a couple of them I shared with the board a couple weeks ago. Also, we have our regular property and liability and auto insurance, the increase came out a little higher than what I had projected. And in addition, we have with our forfeiture funds, which are federal funds, the replacement officer that I was paid out of there, approximately about half of the salary and benefits will have to be moved back to the police budget in the general fund because we did not have a DEA officer for a good portion of the year. There was one going back to the DEA shortly, but any of the replacement officer salary and wages that are in the federal forfeiture fund has to be moved back to the general fund because he wasn't replacing anybody. So with all that, we're basically at a balanced budget. And this was not incorporated in the original budget because we didn't know what the cost was going to be and at what time we would proceed with this. We also have some health insurance increases for the upcoming year. I am concerned about the cost of this and what are the board's priorities with all the different things that are on your list to want to get done. I'm not certain it's the best, in my opinion, the best use of township funds for the residents of the township.
All right, thank you. I just want to say, when I looked into this, I got a verbal quote for 4 years going back at the time. The verbal quote was approximately $24,000. And that depended upon, and Teresa, I think you'll understand this probably better than all of us, there's a way that these forensic accountants remove the information with our permission and can actually do it in their office as opposed to coming out here and doing it in our office. Not sure how that's done, and not sure that's the best way to do it. I get that. But that's the bid that I got. Now remember, that was probably, well, we're in our first year with this new board. That might have been about 4 years ago, let's say. Maybe almost 5. And that 24,000 has gone to 60 for the same time. And one of them shows 90. I know that we have to get some things done here. And I know what we've done, and I know what Teresa has done. And I want to reiterate, this is all Teresa, our finance director. She has worked with us, and there has been more than just one thing, Mickey, just so you know, but that's okay. There's been about a handful of things we changed also in the treasurer's office to make things work better, and not so much like the accountants would find this and want it changed, but numerous things have been changed. So the bottom line here is, in my opinion right now, I'd like to see it done, but I'd also like to have the money to do it. And I'm not sure those two things are congruent as I speak. So I know we're not voting on anything tonight. I think we got everybody's opinion. I wouldn't have a problem doing it. William, you said the same thing.
Yeah, we have the same opinion, Joe.
Yeah, that scares me. So, anyway, that's where I'm at. So, we're not making any decisions tonight. We need to talk about it. If you look at your sheet, if I just may go over this with you, real quick, and then I promise we'll be done and we'll move on to the next one. We're looking at, 4.5 years, that's fine. I was at 24 grand. Now it's at 60 to 65. I got the second one at 70 grand, let's say, and the third one at 100. And then 200 grand at the end, the 12 and a half. So obviously the prices of these things have skyrocketed. But I don't understand, Plant Moran's. And again, the entrance audit is different. How it was explained to me, I used a forensic accountant. I mean, I'll say this because it's in the past. It's not a big deal. I used a forensic accountant from the FBI school that I went to. And he showed me how to trail or how to follow a money trail that I had to follow. And he was amazing. And he found it all. That's all I'm saying. Not that there's any criminal activity involved in there at all. I want to preface that. No, it wasn't criminal, but I found the money trail. And this guy was unbelievable. That's all I can say. That's what got me going with the Ryman group. He's not there anymore. But this was amazing. And so I think with a new board, I'm told with new companies, when a board member goes off a company that has the ability to put his fingers in the pot, let's just say, they do an entrance audit. They do, and it is somewhat forensic, and it does peel back the onion further than our own auditors, but now we have to balance from, what we have found, what we have changed, to what we have, to what it costs. So that's where I'm at, and I think, we're all kind of, I don't want to say teetering on that issue, but there's a few of us teetering on that issue, and I could go with it too. So I guess that's where we're at. What, as a group, should we do for a next step? We can't just talk about things. We've got to have a next step. So can somebody,
I mean, you can bring an action item and we can vote on it.
at a meeting coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah, the meeting coming up, because these are ranges, these are price ranges.
Right.
Like, or, I'm sorry, can I keep going or no? If you want me to stop, I'll stop. But these are price ranges, as you're aware of, right?
Right.
So, in the unfortunate circumstances, something is found, then this gets turned over to another agency and the cost comes out of our hands. If I'm not saying there is, but if there's some type of criminal aspect found, then it goes to another agency and then they take the ball and run with it and they do what they gotta do. Then we go ahead and change things, as we need to change things to make sure that doesn't happen again. So these are price ranges. This isn't say, we're gonna charge you $140,000 no matter what. Correct? Am I correct in that assumption?
I'm not sure, because when I got the bid from this gentleman, there was a set way they did it. This is what we do, this is where we go, and it's gonna cost you approximately this much if we can remove some of the items and review them in our office. That was it. So I don't know if they still have that, Teresa. I
Okay.
don't know if that's like a,
Well, I was under the assumption that,
So I will say that these costs did not surprise me. There are, just like Jamie when she did the audit presentation. I have not personally done a forensic audit. I do know the process. A forensic audit, like we've talked about, is when you know something specific is a concern and you focus on one area. Because it's such a broad scope, that's the reason for the fees, because they're looking at everything, and everything up to between 4.5 to 12.5 years. And that's a lot of work, that's a lot of information to look at, that's a lot of time. And just these are all CPA firms. So in the CPA world, the fees have gone up tremendously. You know, my hourly rate was over $300 an hour. That's how the CPA industry is. There's there is a shortage of CPAs. The industry is looking at changing some things to help correct that, but it's certainly not like it was when I first started. So that's where it is, and what I thought they outlined their procedures adequately. But it's terminology and procedures that I've worked with before. So, what they propose to do is very reasonable, in my opinion, and based on my experience in the industry.
Okay.
And
Well,
that's the fee. Personally, the highest one, I'm not sure, I think they did a proposal, and just to do a proposal, and I'm not sure they were really interested in it.
That's not the company I would.
Talking
be
about the
looking
third
into.
one?
I'm sorry?
Talking about the third one?
Yes,
Well, how about if we do this?
yes.
Since we're going to do it and vote on it, why don't I put an action item on for next board meeting that we're going to vote on interviewing the first two firms. And then if we believe to move forward, we can vote yes.
Perfect.
If we don't go forward, we'll vote no. How's
But
that sound?
do we want to interview them without knowing if we want to move forward and make
Well-
them
Yes.
out here?
Bill,
and-
the difference is, Mickey, I think with an interview, I think we can get things out of them that we really don't know yet. Now, I know what this one gentleman did for me, but I can't tell you what this group's going to do for the township. I'm not an accountant. Do you know what I mean? So you can be a CPA, and please, no offense, Teresa, but maybe Teresa doesn't know 100% of what they would do for us.
That's
I
where
mean,
I'm coming from.
do you know what I'm trying to
that
say?
kind of thing.
Maybe, I know you know what you're doing, and I know you know what accountants do and what CPAs do, but, this is a staff from the FBI, retired FBI forensic accountants, and I'm not sure, without interviewing them, that I would like to say no if I don't, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well,
Yes, it
so
does.
would we have the money to pay them though, based on what Teresa said? Are we wasting their time, or would we dip into our savings?
What if they come up with something that's just, we never even thought of, that they do, and it's worth it to us? I think we should at least, hey, we can vote on it.
Right.
If
But
we
I-
have
but I'm
four
just
votes that
curious,
don't want to
though.
go forward, they don't vote to interview.
But I'm just curious, where would the money come from? Would that come from our savings in the,
Well, it has to come from the fund balance.
It would come from our fund
It
balance.
would have to.
Okay.
We don't have this budgeted.
It's not budgeted, and
Not
and we
budgeted.
can budget for it, and we can budget for excess expenditures over revenue, as long as our total fund balance, we're not budgeting for our total fund balance to go below zero. Now, our unassigned fund balance at March 31st of 2025 was about 1.9 million in the general fund.
but,
And I could look at this and determine if we need to allocate the fees across different funds or departments, depending
Well-
on how their process is.
Why don't we
I
do
won't
it?
know that, but
I'm sorry.
assuming the general fund would take on this expenditure.
Why
it
don't
would
we
come
think our
out
way
of our
through this?
fund
We don't have to
balance.
make a decision right now.
well, I think they want to know whether to put it as an action item.
Well, you
Um,
don't have consensus. You have 3 nays, 3 yays, and abstain.
Maybe.
Yeah, so.
I wouldn't do it, but if I lose, I lose, but I
What
I
Joe
would do
says
it.
makes some sense, so if you can
Yep.
learn from people, that's what I'm eager to do.
Well, we're going to have to make a decision. I want a decision made when we have these study sessions. I don't want to just say, let's just talk about it later.
Yeah,
So how about we put an action item on? Are we in agreement? Put an action item on to interview the first two. If we have 4 votes to say yes, by that time when you look at it, or 4 votes to say no, then it doesn't go through. Is that fair?
Fair.
say nay to that, but I might be the only
You'd say nay
No,
twice then.
I'm in agreement
So
with
do I
you,
get
but
2
I
votes?
think,
Yeah.
I think if everybody wants to go for the vote, from a democratic point of view, I have no issue with that. But I agree, I don't want to waste their time. But again, if we want to put this to a vote, obviously that's the right thing to do.
I think that is the best way for a board of 7 to do it. And there might be something that you find in the next few weeks. Don't we have at least 2.5 weeks for the next?
Yeah, we actually have a longer period of time between meetings. Our next meeting is the 13th.
And so, I'm sorry, Teresa, did you have something?
Well, I was just going to address that because of if the board approves doing this, number one, it's going to take the firm probably 2 to 3 weeks to get it on their schedule. And then the time that they require of the treasurer and finance departments to do the audit. The goal is to have this, at least our part, done by December 31st because of the volume of work that the finance and particularly the finance department has in January through March.
All right, well, that's another,
So I'm not sure how quickly the interviews can be scheduled. I mean, I want to make sure the board has the information they need to make the decision they need to make. And what meetings my hope is that the board votes on this by no later than the second board meeting of October
okay.
because of the timeline.
Well, let's put it on the first meeting in October if we want to move forward at least. I think that's the best way with all 7 of us having some different opinions up here. And some are kind of teetering. Not sure. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not sure I'm going one way or the other now. Sure, I was the one that started this, but I don't know if I'm gonna be the one to finish it, so. That's,
I'm bored with you from day one, Joe, just so you
yeah,
know.
I know you were, and I'm just being honest with you, so. How about we do that? Is that okay, Derek?
Are you talking about the question to interview or the question to move forward?
The question we're moving forward as an action item to interview these 2. If we vote yes, we interview them. If we get 4 votes to vote no, we don't.
Just to be clear, I think Teresa's concern was a decision to move forward with it or not by the end of October. So if you don't feel like you could get the interview in after the 13th and a decision made by the end of October, I think what she's telling you is you almost are going to want to punt it until like next spring because her winter is going to be too busy, or that time period, if you make a decision later than the end of October, is going to be too busy to be able to accommodate their needs. So, I mean, maybe another option is you look at budgeting it for it in the next fiscal year if you know her schedule's not going to be able to accommodate that with the decision timeline that we have. That's just another idea.
And the fees may change.
Only
Go up, you're saying.
They're not coming down.
No, they're not coming down.
They're not coming
And that
down.
might be a good question if you interview them.
Yeah.
Hey, is your proposal good for the next 6 months or not? You know, and then that
All right.
would be an option.
All right, well, I want to make a decision tonight. Not a voting decision, but a decision of moving in a direction.
I mean, just do the action item with the 2 interviewees you want on there. And if you get 4 yes votes, we'll interview them. And if you don't, then the item's dead.
And we'll see if we can get it in by October. You said by December,
October, end of October.
October 31st.
So that my request and my goal is that if the audit is done, if we proceed with doing the entrance audit, that whatever time and work is required of my department, which is only two to 4 people, that whatever they need from us is completed by December 31st.
Okay.
They don't have to have the reports done, but the time from us, and I don't know how they would do that, and then that's an interview question. Could they have access to our system on a read-only basis? Yes.
Something like that. That's what
Can
they
they take our documents? No. That's why our auditors come here.
I get it.
So, and depending on the period of time, there's documents that are in storage. There may be some documents that we no longer have because we do follow, in most cases, the state of Michigan retention policy.
Okay. Well, again, where does that that leaves us, do we have the ability to vote on it first meeting and get an interview before? Do we have the timing then to put it on, to move forward to at least?
You could put it on the agenda for the 13th to make a decision on the interview, and then the firm's availability
Within a couple weeks, I would hope.
would have to be the case, would have to exist. Their availability would have to exist to be able to make a
And if it
decision.
didn't, we'd have to wait till spring.
Something like that, to meet her concerns. So
Can we gotta move forward. We gotta do something. I can't, we can't sit still with it, so. Is that okay? Board, is that all right? We'll put it on the agenda, and then we'll go from there. And
Yes.
if the timing works, it works. If it doesn't,
We postpone it. if it
shame
doesn't
on
work.
us for not getting this quicker then.
And I'd be
it
remiss
off
if
to
I
the spring,
didn't
wouldn't you?
just remind the board that at a study session, you're allowed to give your opinions, but you're not allowed to decide as a group on anything.
Right.
So, okay.
But if you put it off to the spring, wouldn't you just put it off to the next budgeted year and budget for it?
Our budget year starts April 1, so any costs for this would fall into
Right.
the new fiscal year if work was done after April 1.
Well, then I, as an individual, can put it on the agenda.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
my point. Not that I don't care what anybody else thinks, but,
Fine, Joe.
so I'm gonna put it on the agenda. We good?
Yes.
Fabulous.
I think we did that one. Okay, second part here, we're gonna go to, the employee compensation, benefits for a firm to look at, benefits and compensation. I had, okay, there's quite a number, there's a difference here than obviously the first group. What was there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think there was 12. 10, 11, 12. Okay, and what I looked at, and I apologize, I'm going first again, but since I'm on a roll, let me just keep going. What I looked at is a couple of companies, one out of Ypsilanti. I looked at some of the resumes. Ryman, once again, I did not realize Ryman did this. I mean, I get it what their company is, but I just didn't realize this is what they did. One out of Saginaw, one out of Ann Arbor. And I think, I couldn't tell, and I got to be honest with you guys, and maybe somebody needs to jump in and explain this to me. But when I started reading the resumes, I was telling Derek, they're like all blended together. Their verbiage, it all blended together, so they all do about the same thing. So I'm looking at a fee of $28,000 and a fee of $152,000. So, I mean, what is the $152,000 company going to give us that is going to surprise me? So, the point is, they gather information, they gather benefits in the area, they gather comparable, well, I don't know how far they go for salaries, benefits, and then they benchmark it, they put it together, they bring it to us. So I don't have a problem with one of these local companies and the prices around $30,000 or under, as opposed to, I don't need somebody in Dallas, Texas to call me. So, does that make sense? Who's next?
I mean, I think I'd be I think it's necessary. We need an employee compensation program. So if we're not going to create a commission or working group to do it for us, then we need to hire somebody to do it. I think 30 grand is a pretty good cap. I mean, we need Grosse Ile Township doesn't have 12,000 employees. It's like, I don't know, 50. Give or take.
Yeah,
So I
the
think
firemen.
with the firefighters. So I think that it's like, let's just pay to get a product, pretty decent product. We can always improve it later if we feel like it doesn't meet all of our requirements or whatever. So I think a local company at 30 grand is pretty fair. And I think I'm willing to spend the money this year out of, we keep calling it savings, but it's not savings. It's the
Fund balance.
to get it done.
Okay, well, I see Yo and Yo is under 30, Ryman is under 30. I think I'm sorry, but there's one in St. Augustine, Florida. I'm just not sure they might be able to provide the same type of service as somebody local, but they're under 30. So, Derek, I know we can't vote to make any decisions here, but can we come up with a group to interview? Or can we put it on the action item to interview 3?
Absolutely, if you wanted to put it on the agenda for the 13th to
That's what I mean,
interview.
yeah.
And if you wanted to make a proposal for which ones that you had interest in interviewing, that would be a proper way to.
Why don't you
go about
guys
it.
look at this, and ladies, look at your list and tell me, I'm just saying Jameson thought, let's cap it at 30, so,
Can I comment on it, Joe?
you sure can.
So I actually took a good part of today going through all of these. One of the first things I did was I knocked out those high ones. They were way too high. So then I went through the remainders, and I wanted to make sure that they knew their stuff on both compensation and on benefits. So as I was going through, some were really strong on compensation. There weren't really too many on the benefit side. And I only saw one that got the job right, answered all our questions, went about it. So I may pronounce her name wrong. Is it Ryman?
Ryman, that's the,
It's us, down in Detroit.
where the forensic accountants are from too.
So Ryman went on and said they're looking at union and non-union. They're looking at COLA, overtime, bonuses. They told us how they would get the information. They'd use Freedom of Information Act to get it. So they gave us specifically how they could go to surrounding communities. They looked, they even mentioned that we have a volunteer firefighter group, right? So they understood that the compensation and benefits would be different from them. They talked about creating job descriptions. In terms of benefits, which the other ones lacked, they said they would cover medical, dental, life, disability, vision, EAP, HSA, retirement plans, paid leaves, uniforms. So going through all of these, to me, they're the only ones that got the assignment right, answered all our questions, and would actually do what we need them to do for total benchmarking, because I don't need to know if somebody's paid too low without knowing where they stand with their benefits. Are their benefits at market level? Do their benefits need to be improved too?
Okay.
So I know you guys will want to vote on the ones that you interview, but that's truly the only one I'm interested in.
Okay, could we do this, Mickey? Can we at least come up with a couple to have some type of our own benchmarking to see that, a comparison then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
just to have one is kind of, why would you interview them if
Right.
you're just gonna
No,
put 'em on there?
absolutely. And Joe, there was even one that attached some personal information to the package they sent us. It was obviously the person was at the copier and was grabbing more stuff. So, like, I just saw a lot of that crazy
Oh, yeah,
stuff
that's
in there.
not good.
There was another one that all they did was cut down a tree and tell us every single person they ever worked for
Okay.
and what they did. So, but yeah, I mean,
So I agree with what Mickey said, and I do think Ryman is a top choice, but I personally, I went through these and I did something similar. I believe, similar to what you said, Joe, that I think if they're local, we're going to get a better round of information. So personally, and I know that, Jameson mentioned 30K, but I even put Gallagher in here. But if we want to stick with the under 30K, my choices were Ryman, Yo and Yo.
Gallagher.
Well, Gallagher's 35.
That's all right.
But
No, that's
that
okay.
that was my third. I had three. So, but I don't disagree with what Mickey pointed out about Ryman.
and Gallagher is a really well-known consultant. They do nice work, and maybe they just need to get asked about the benefits piece. I don't know if that would jack up the price, or if maybe they just didn't put it in their bid, but they plan on doing it.
And it's always,
You don't-
I don't mean to keep saying this, but it's always better when you interview somebody that you ask them the poignant questions, and Gallagher may not have put in there exactly what we're all looking for, but they do it. Do you know- do you-
I've worked with them,
Yeah, do you
with
know what I mean?
clients,
So-
and they do a nice job. They
Okay.
really do.
You have good regard for them, they have a good
I do
reputation.
have-
see
yeah,
them-
I do.
They're a well-established firm for a number of years, aren't they?
Right.
I think that
I would pick Ryman, but if I had to interview somebody else, I would definitely feel
Gallagher.
comfortable interviewing Gallagher.
I think it's important that I think it's important that we benchmark all the employee pay and benefits, but I think the really important output from this is that we have a employee compensation and benefits system, right? Like a grade and step program with duty descriptions or job descriptions, you know.
I think that's what, I hope that's what this is, because
I hope
think
so
this-
too,
That
but
would be an excellent question, once again, because this is what we're looking for, and sometimes, what we're looking for and what they give us in their RFP answer, they do it, but maybe they didn't put it in there, so there's all kinds of things I think we can mold them. Does anybody else, on the board have anything? I think the three, Margaret, I'm with you, I actually circled Gallagher. I had Gallagher, Raymond, and Yo and Yo. So those are my three too. But is there anybody on the board who'd like to say anything?
I'd just like to piggyback on what you said about Ryman. The other ones as well. AutoSolve, I mean, I know they're out of St. Augustine, but they were a good price point. Also Gallagher, I had that one listed as well, but, and PayPoint. But who knows, maybe the Ryman, if we go with them for this and the forensic audit, then maybe we can get some kind of a bundle package out of them, I don't know.
Geico.
Yeah, you never know, just like Geico, maybe we can get a bundle package.
All right. So anybody else on the board, if I put a action item on, I would like to ask Derek to add an action item of we vote to interview Ryman, Gallagher, and Yo and Yo. Is there any other anything, comment, opinion, suggestion?
I think this is extremely important. It's important to do this for the employees of the township. It's critical. They've waited a very long time for this, and I consider this a top priority. That's my opinion.
Okay. Teresa had something also I think I missed.
So it's exactly what Margaret just said. I think it's a top priority. This is not budgeted either, so we would be using fund balance, but I believe this is a top priority. I think the information we're going to get out of this is valuable. When I rank them by cost, I looked at where they were headquartered as well. So I absolutely agree that we should do Raymond and Yo and Yo because they are both in Michigan. I think it's important to get information that, I guess any of these companies could obtain local information, but when they're based locally, that adds a different flavor, I think, to what they do and a somewhat different perspective on things. So I think it's important, since we have those options, to stay local. One thing I noticed with AutoSolve was that they get employee input. And by no means am I implying that employee input is not important. My presumption was that you were looking for something more objective than that.
Some of the employee input I saw, and it might not have been them, but it was things like, do you manage people? Do you supervise people? Do you handle cash? That kind of stuff. Because some of them will do job descriptions, but so on the ones that I saw, it was helpful, but there's a broad range in here, and the
Right,
ones that I
yeah,
rolled out, I
right.
didn't get into.
Right.
So you would, just as an opinion, you would not want to see Gallagher, but you would want to see the other one from, where are they from?
I wouldn't mind seeing Gallagher,
Florida?
because I've had experience with them on the insurance side in a prior position,
Okay.
not with Grozeal.
Okay,
And they do good work
okay,
as
very
well.
good.
So,
Thank you. Is anybody opposed if I mean, they can give their opinion, it's not like.
If you want to put it on the ballot next, on the agenda, I'm not going
Agenda,
to.
an action
I'll
item
support
to
that.
interview,
yeah,
to move forward, interview three of them.
Yes, agreed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Derek, is that,
I had a question.
sure, go ahead.
Excuse me. Did Plant Moran provide a bid? Did they return something?
no, they did not for this.
Only for the other one, Kevin, did I say?
Thank you.
Anybody have an opinion of that, then you're good? Did you, I'm sorry, I missed what you were saying.
No, I was just gonna say we just got to be careful we're not taking straw polls.
Or not, I'm just gonna make an action item. Does anybody have a problem with me doing that?
Make an
And I would
action
say
item.
thank you for your opinion, because we can't vote, we can't make decisions, but I can hear what you want. I'm getting a feel for what you want.
I think you got it.
Yep. I
Okay.
think we can move on. Yep.
Derek, is that good with you?
Sounds good? Yep.
Thank you, sir, and Teresa, thank you for your input. Okay, last item on the study session tonight. Now, I'm not sure, did all of you, there was a couple items that came out, and on the policy, there were some issues of the bidding, and I knew that we just needed to talk about this. So I'm just giving a little background, I'm gonna let you guys start, instead of me, and I hope that you all had a packet from Derek. Did you get one?
They're passing one down to me right now.
Yeah, that's the same,
I
No,
think
it's
it's on
right.
to your left.
there's copies
Oh, this
for
is just a
everybody
copy.
of
This
what
is
we
what
had
we got.
talked about previously.
Got one there
Grabbed
now.
everything.
I had-
Coming your way.
Back.
That
Here
didn't
you
change from the last time,
No, it
did
did not.
Okay.
No. Same thing as what was
Yeah,
passed
no, it's the
out.
same
Okay.
thing.
That's what I just passed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Brought
where
this
would you
down.
guys, who would like to start and where would you like to start? There's two different areas. One is the policy of the bids from the general policies and procedures, and one is the recommendations that Derek had obtained from the managers. So, would anybody like to start instead of me this time?
I want to take a minute and look at this.
I mean, I think
you
it's
guys
a
wanna
pretty
talk?
good policy already, right? If we follow and adhere to it, I think it'll do what it's supposed to do.
And I think if we look at though what Derek,
Or with these edits, I think
oh,
it's a
I'm
good.
sorry, yeah, that's what I,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
that's what I wanted to know if you were going that direction.
I'm in alignment with Jameson. I had gone through this from the, I just wanted to make sure nothing I had changed from the last time, and it didn't. That's what I sent down to Mickey. I think with the updates, you've brought this to 2025, meaning it aligns with, you know, the type of funding we experience now, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I didn't see anything that, you know, I thought was out of line. So, very similar to what Jameson said, I'm in agreement with what you and the other managers provided.
Margaret, I just want to say that I fully agree with what you're saying. We talked about this before. And this all was around 4.8 is where this actually started. And a gentleman taught me that you got to live in the time you're living. And, you know, the prices that you get today are just, I mean, they're out of sight for everything. I mean, you can't even get anything for $1,000 or $2,000. So I think that you could get before, you know, 5, 6, 7 years ago was my point. So I think that these numbers are in line with what things cost today, and we've got to keep this machine running. I mean, it's an important cog in the machine, and that's the processes, and I think we gotta adhere to them and stick to them and get something that we can understand and that's very reasonable for the managers to work with. So I'm in agreement with you, Margaret. That's all on this one.
you.
But I would vote to adopt these changes. That's all. I've gone through this a few times already now. This was what we had. You know, Derek, I forgot, but was it like 2 months ago? We went through this before okay.
Joe?
Absolutely.
So I went through all the bid materials except for this. I didn't have their recommended ones. But, like, one of the things that they're recommending is that you gotta have at least 3 written quotes. What if you can't get 3 quotes? What happens then?
I think the reason that it was changed, and the change there is the removal of verbal quotes. So it used to say 3 written or verbal quotes. And I think your question is about getting a minimum of 3. But the 3 written or verbal quotes, for our record keeping, verbal quotes aren't really worth much. And if you're
Right.
going to be able to show that you're in compliance with the policy, a written quote is, makes more sense than any verbal quote. So that's why that condition was removed.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
That was a good change.
And there's provisions within the policy to take into consideration if you can't get 3
It goes
quotes.
further into that.
Yeah, so
Mickey.
for example, if it's a sole source provider or a single source provider, there is the allowance not to receive 3 quotes if that's the case. So there are provisions that are included in here to take that into consideration.
I saw that, but, so we go out and we ask for bids on something, right? And it's not that there's a single source, it's that based on what we're willing to pay or what our criteria is, maybe only 2 companies are interested. Does this prohibit it then if we only get 2 quotes?
It does not prohibit it. It leaves it to the discretion of the board whether you guys are willing to accept a single or 2 bids or 3 bids. You know,
That further down in this, or?
it's under the requirements for you guys to approve the expenditure or the bid that's being authorized on a formal bid process.
Remember, Mickey, everything comes to the township board to vote on, and we can acknowledge, and of course, we're gonna bring a manager up here and say, let's say the fire department, because that's what you're on. Let's say they needed a piece on a fire truck, but only 2 people bid, and he put it out to, contacted 5 more companies by phone. He said, I tried to, and, you know, we are going to obviously analyze what he did and either send him back or approve it. But that's, we have that right as the board.
But,
So
but
I
is that
trust-
right reflected in the language, though? That's what I mean.
So-
In this document, does it say that, hey, you can,
It is that it goes to the board to approve.
There's no rule we can make in policies and procedures to limit our own authority. So this isn't a charter, it's just policies and procedures. So if we decide to accept 2 votes, it doesn't matter that our policies and procedures say we need 3. Now, from a, I guess, administrative and transparency perspective, maybe there should be a line that says something like the township board can opt to
unless
accept.
otherwise approved by the township board?
Right, yeah, just because it looks shady for us to be like, well, we always get 3 votes except for when we don't, because
Yeah, and so to me, it's like, from a language perspective, I would actually put it in here.
yeah, I see your point.
And I was tooling around on the internet today, and I found one city, I don't know if they're a client or not, but it's Macomb Township. And man, they have a beautiful purchasing policy, complete with all forms, all thought out, a graph that says who can sign, when it has to be sealed. I don't know, I just think that we can maybe expand on our policy and play with the language a bit more and really get it into shape, but,
Can we put a sentence in, Derek? But see, we already have that authority because it goes to the township board, and the township board does make the decision of all.
Yeah, we have the authority. I'm just saying, and I concur with Mickey, that just having a line in there saying that we get 3 votes except for when the board decides 2 votes is sufficient or something, it just makes it,
Yeah,
makes
so-
it look.
Or the
We can't get
explanation
3.
by the
Not
manager.
when we decide it's sufficient, when we can't get 3.
So where that provision, I think that Mickey is referring to is in the first sentence under paragraph A. Purchase of goods or services exceeding a contract cost of more than 2,500 and less than 10,000 shall require the department manager to obtain at least 3 written quotes. So I think that's where you're coming at with that.
But I
So
guess.
what
I'm
you're
sorry,
saying
go ahead.
is, in the 3 quote provision is not, can be waived by action of the township board or something like that. But you're only talking about that small segment of bids. In the issue there, or lack thereof, is the fact that bids generally between $2,500 and $10,000 should not be an issue for a manager to get 10 quotes for. It's generally some of these larger, bigger projects that you might have an issue with getting those 3 written quotes.
Okay.
A good example is our engineering. You know, there were multiple reasons why we only received 1 bid. I came to the board, I explained that to you, and you said, okay, that makes sense. That's logical, that you couldn't get the 3 bids, or you didn't get more than 1 bid for that matter. And by the way, the price is good, you know, as compared to what the engineer's estimate was. And if we went out to bid again for this, you know, it might be not in the best interest of the township to do so. But that case was made to the township board. So, and that would be the case, I think, under some of these other extenuating circumstances for bids above the $10,000 amount, so.
Which
Yeah,
also
it's-
gets covered, I think, in your under sealed bids, if 1 bid is received for the project, the opening, et cetera. So it kind of covers broadly, that concept as well.
Would you guys feel more comfortable? Derek, are we able to put 1 sentence in just to,
Absolutely, you can do whatever you want.
no, but I meant as the township manager, I understand that when we went through this too, myself and you, that we have the discretion at the township board to approve or disapprove and have somebody go back. And I get that for anything. It
To
doesn't matter.
reemphasize your authority or something like that. or-
Yeah, is
or-
there maybe,
Absolutely.
and Mickey, I get it, if maybe we put a sentence in there that,
So Joe, to me, it's just the way I draft language. I
That's
have
fine.
headings, I call it out, I say all the things. If that doesn't work, what else does? But even if you look at what I just gave you, it's a beautiful chart from that
Yes.
city that just talks about each level, who it goes to for approvals. I just thought they did a really nice job, and you guys, I apologize, I should have copied it, but I got it right before I came here. I mean, I would,
Yeah,
I think we can do a lot better
Your
on the
preference is to
policy.
reorganize it, is that what you're saying, to make it more?
Reorganize
That would be
it.
another step. Let's do this.
Why don't we
That's
try
good.
to
No,
step toward now, Joe?
I think
What-
what she's referring
I
to
think
is-
that we're gonna vote on next meeting to okay these changes. Derek, can we come up with just one sentence or two sentences about what we're talking about, where the, however you want to explain that. What
Sure.
we just did, we just went over. And then we can vote, I'll put that on the agenda for next meeting to vote the changes of policy 4.8.
We can vote the changes and then perhaps have this a little more organized and just call out the roles and responsibilities required within, if that's
And
the case.
what we can do, Margaret, if you look at this chart, I mean, obviously, we just got this today, but this chart, it's kind of nice. I like that. I like how.
That's
you
what I
just
mean.
pulled up.
If it makes sense to reorganize,
And we can
that
deal with
sounds
it
good.
later.
Yep.
I mean, we'll deal with it later.
I agree.
I have another thing to
Is
note.
this what they-
Yes.
So on the
This
federal
is-
side,
this
we have to avoid split purchases. And I don't think that's really addressed in here, or at least not anywhere I read. Maybe it's in some other section of the policies and procedures. But as an example, let's say I want to buy $12,000 worth of voting machines, right, for the clerk's office. So what I do is I go buy one voting machine every month at $4,000 a voting machine, thus never increasing the cost to $12,000 and avoiding township board approval, right? So split purchases would be anytime you break up a purchase that you could have made as a single purchase in order to avoid oversight. And I don't think this really addresses it. I don't know if that's something we would want to consider putting in there.
Yes.
So
That's a
that
good
is
point.
in this policy from this other city, and that's the kind of things I'm talking about. Like, they did a beautiful job and thought out everything.
Is there on the federal side, Jameson, is there a time limit? What if, like, I'm the manager and I only can buy 5 windows at a time because I don't have the money, and then I buy 5 windows next year, and I buy 5.
No, I think
Is there
that
like
would
a
be,
time limit?
That would be fine, right? There isn't really a time limit on it. It's more about, so we have billing officials and all kinds of stuff that's reviewing things and whatnot that are auditing this stuff constantly, right? We don't necessarily have that. We have Teresa. But if Teresa notices the clerk office is purchasing a voting machine every month for 3 months, that's going to raise a red flag for her
And
to be like,
that's,
hey, this
I
is
get
a
it.
split purchase.
Okay, so
right?
it's a reasonableness of the purchase too. Okay.
Right, yeah, and it's kind of, I know it's a little bit nebulous, like most government terminology.
Why don't we
but-
address that when we address maybe putting this in a different format of what Mickey brought up today? Do you want to do that, or do you want to put something in now?
Yeah, I mean, I think Teresa's aware of split purchases anyway and is probably tracking what that is. But at some point, I think it needs to end up in the language, right? Because we're not always going to have Teresa
I
there
think
at
it's
the
good to
helm.
be clear. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and it makes sense. That way, somebody can't come back and say, well, here's what it says, and you say, well, this is what it meant. You want it to be clear.
Okay.
So I think that makes absolute sense to
Yeah,
do
and I
that.
think account to like your point, Joe. Like every month, the rec department buys chlorine for the pool, right? Like, yes, I suppose we could bulk purchase chlorine at the beginning of the year, but it's not really feasible to store that much chlorine, so it's not a split purchase. But my voting machine example is a split purchase, right?
Yeah,
So
because
it's
you're
kind
trying
of
to get under the limit so you
yeah,
don't
it's
have to get the
deliberately
bids.
avoiding oversight.
Yeah.
There's a couple of important points here I'd like to just talk about. We think about these various things, we compare chlorine with voting machines, and you could talk about snow plowing contracts. We have to become comfortable with the general concept of what we're trying to do and how it works in various circumstances. To me, that's complicated. I don't want to see us rush this. I want us to get it to a document that we understand. I mean, in a way, think of it like a bicycle. You can look at a bicycle and you can see handlebars with handle grips, you can see pedals, you can see a seat. But when it comes to making that bicycle work, you got to get on it and balance it and make it go. And we're going to need to try and achieve, in my mind and hope, a common understanding of what that means and with an ability also to work together. Teresa mentions here, for example, that sometimes one department's out of line with their budget, and they have to somehow find a way to make it work. Well, maybe for whatever reason they can't make it work, and maybe somebody else pitches in to try to balance the budget that year for $300 or whatever it takes. We need to learn to work together and document it all for what reasons we're doing it, and then we have a plan that we know how to work to be successful. We not only need a plan, we know how to work it. And so we need to talk our way through this and understand what this means and how it plays music on, like a piano. Every key has to be struck the right way. I just want to put that out there.
All right, William, thank you. I think what's important for us on these study sessions is that it's not piecemealing, but if we can accomplish something and then vote on it the next meeting, I mean, it's one less thing we're going to deal with, and we're moving forward. So, Bill, I think that's a good thing we can look at. Jameson, I think we can look at that. And Mickey, what you brought today, we will look at. And if
We definitely need.
if we need changes in the future, we can do it. But I think that I would like to make an action item to incorporate these changes in 4.8. And just like we did with the other issues, we're moving forward. We're making decisions. We're not just talking up here. I think Jameson mentioned that at a meeting the other night. That, enough with the talk. Let's get some work done here.
Sounds like a good plan.
So, if anybody has an objection, please bring it up right now. But I'd like to make an action item. But go ahead.
I'd like to bring up a couple.
Sure.
Would you like?
No, go ahead, man. I'll wait till you're done.
I think that this proposed, the proposed changes to policies and procedure 4.8, there are parts of it that are,
Forget this.
I think, positive. I think there are parts of it that make
Job.
the process have less checks and balances, and I think it's important to have as many checks and balances as possible. Make it more clear what the township is doing, and my favorite word, open and transparent. Under encumbrances, we take out having the treasurer and the finance director review some of the expenditures. I think that the original policies and procedures were written sometime in 1993, at least that's as far back as I can find, and that some of these steps do help in the process of transparency and checks and balances. When I sign checks, I do see some attempts at skirting policies and procedures on purchasing. So I think that there needs to be a little bit more review of this before it's a complete.
Is encumbrances only applicable to purchase orders between, because this is how I read.
This is how I read it.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
that's
only
how I-
applicable to purchase orders and only up to the amounts listed
Yeah.
here.
And I asked, Kevin, I talked to a CPA just to make sure. I really didn't understand, and this is me, look, this is the way life is. I didn't understand the encumbrances, but it had to do with what I read it, and Teresa, please if I'm wrong, but I may be reading it wrong, to deal with purchase orders. So since we're not dealing with purchase orders, I don't see that this section is applicable because we don't have purchase orders, that's all. So-
Well, what, your point is well taken. We don't have purchase orders, but we do have RFPs and RFQs, and we could change this language so that there's a better review of RFPs and RFQs before they come to the board. And I think that would be, my understanding at this point, any manager can put together an RFP or an RFQ and put it out to the public. I think that there is, as this older copy of the policies and procedures. They do bring purchases before the finance director and the treasurer to review to make sure that before it's put out to the public, that there's money to do it and that it's in good order.
Isn't that what the managers are paid to do, is to make sure that they're managing their budget and that they're putting forth to the board what they believe they require, and then it's our responsibility to determine the accuracy of that?
That, generally speaking, I would agree with that. What I'm saying is there should be and can be, and there used to be, a process where things came to the treasurer and the finance director before they were put out to the public, where before they were posted, purchased, whatever, to make sure that there was money in the budget for what they were supposed to do and or what they were purchasing. And not every manager, as I have seen, is doing that or maybe they may not be capable of that. I don't know.
So,
Are you asking for an extra oversight, basically, is what you're asking for?
I think it makes sense to have a extra step there to protect the public and the taxpayer.
Okay.
so Kevin, are you
Would that kinda
talking,
le-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you were in the middle there. I
Would
thought you
that-
were done, Mark.
Would that kind of lead into kind of what I talked about a few meetings ago about a facilities site manager, so say any department needs something, ABC, and they would flow through them. I was thinking the manager would oversee.
The
But it-
township manager
Yes.
versus
Township manager.
correct, yes. I think,
So a department manager is going to say, I need A, B, C, and D. And then it
Right.
flow up to the township manager and they look it over. They agree, disagree, refine it, and then the township manager will bring it to us.
That's
That's
correct.
kind of what I was thinking.
that's
what you're?
exactly, you're right on the money
Okay,
there.
all right.
Thank you.
So you would rather have the township manager review everything as opposed to Teresa and yourself?
I think the more checks and balances, the better for the public.
Well,
Can I ask something?
you go ahead, sir.
Okay, so you're just talking about RFPs and RFQs that we're requesting, right? Not receiving? Because my concern would be delegating the authority of the township board to one elected official, right? So let's say you don't like this RFP or RFQ and you deny it. So you've denied an authority of the board to approve an RFP or RFQ unilaterally.
Your language is not what what I'm saying is no individual can say, if something is in good order and the treasurer finds that it's in good order and the finance director finds that it's in good order, then it goes to the board.
But what if you find that it's not? Do you have the authority to then deny the board the ability to vote on it? Because that's kind of what it sounds like a little bit. And I'm not accusing, right? I'm just trying to understand what you're
I
going
think what I'm saying is that if you have something that does not have, if a document does not have all the details needed in it, the treasurer, I mean, the treasurer can do that now to some extent by saying, I don't have enough information to sign this check. I need more information before I can sign this. And if the treasurer sees something, and this is true of the clerk too, if you see something that doesn't make sense or doesn't complete the process, you can always send that back to the manager that's requesting it and say, please provide more information.
So a couple things to unpack here. So if you refer to the third paragraph on page 20, it states, department managers who have included a capital expenditure, capital improvement item in their approved annual budgets or a subsequent budget amendment are not required to seek township board approval to solicit bids for those previously approved items, but are required to receive authorization to purchase. So if we're talking about the authorization to put out for bid, if you have it built into your budget for that fiscal year, you automatically have the authorization to bid that out. If it's an unbudgeted item, which would require the review of the board to determine if that item if there's budget capacity, if it's warranted, it's got to come to you for approval. So there is some oversight with regards to the bidding process and what gets bid. If we're talking about oversight of the bidding documents and you wanted to incorporate additional requirements for review of those documents, you could add language that says any bid documentation must be reviewed or developed by the department manager, but reviewed by some other party. I mean, that's your choice. And I think maybe that's what you're referring to is a second set of eyes on the bid documentation to make sure it incorporates all the things that it should incorporate. As far as the payment, I think, which is the last part of the most recent conversation, you're talking more about when an invoice comes in for payment and the supporting material that shows that the work was done properly and that you as a signatory to that check has what you need to be comfortable with to execute that payment.
I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is, though, I do see things that come in after the fact where money has been spent, and had it come before the treasurer, I would have sent it back and said, this doesn't make sense to me. Would you please explain how you put this together, this purchase? Or if I see something where it appears that somebody is trying to, or to skirt policies and procedures as far as bidding practices, I can bring it back and say, please, manager of XYZ department, please take this back and see if you can't bid this out in a proper way that is considered a best practice.
Do you have an
And so
example of that?
the bottom line to this is, I appreciate what has been done so far. I think there's a lot more that needs to be reviewed before this is what I would call a complete.
Excuse me.
It's not, I think there are holes in the process here, and just pushing it through to push it through does not solve all of the problems.
Teresa, go ahead. I want to hear from you.
So I just wanted to clarify that there is, since I've been here, there's one check that was issued before something was actually purchased, and that was for the purchase of the fire truck, because it guaranteed a certain price and because of the length of time it was going to take. No checks in this township are issued until the work is completed, the services are completed, or the goods are received. Nothing happens ahead of time.
That's what I'm saying is, for instance, if a situation arises where multiple purchases that are under what is considered if they're under a certain dollar amount, you can avoid having to go and follow a purchasing bidding process. And you can break a project down into multiple little chunks to avoid the bidding process. And what I'm trying to do is set it so that you can't avoid it that way. So you can't take a project and chunk it down into little pieces to avoid the bidding process.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, Kevin. That would be like a split purchase.
Yeah, that's what
right?
he
That's
touched
what
on
he
that
was
earlier.
saying. I
Exactly,
believe.
exactly.
No, yeah,
Well,
he touched
we
that.
need
James
to
touched
speak
on
to
that.
that.
Yeah,
We
and
do-
I
That's-
think there
that's
needs to be
part
a
of it,
provision
yeah.
for split purchases. for
I'm in
sure.
agreement with that.
Well,
I do
there-
have some reticence about giving, and I know that's not what you're saying, but I think that's kind of de facto what it becomes. If you're like, hey, only the treasurer, only the clerk can approve RFPs or whatever, you're kind of creating a place where one individual can really decide what goes out and what doesn't.
Well,
That the basis, isn't that the basis of what our manual says? I mean, it says the treasurer, it says the clerk or their deputies. I mean,
Well, we
put
have
that in place with our-
no.
with our
What we
pump.
have is some statutory authority to protect against like illegal activity and whatnot. So as an example,
Exactly.
the clerk, you know, and Kevin, you'll probably argue with me about this, but the clerk and the treasurer may refuse to sign a check for two reasons. One, there's no money in the account, or two, the purchase isn't valid, right? And you can ask for more documentation to prove the purchase is valid. But as long as the purchase is valid and there's money in the account, I have to sign the check,
As
right?
long
I
as we
can't just
voted
be
on it,
like,
I mean.
I can't just be like, I'm not doing it because you didn't give me enough information. You know, that's,
I definitely
Wait a
would
minute here.
disagree with that.
you can look at the law, man.
No, I did look at the law because you have brought this up before, and it's just like in your business. If you're given an order that is unlawful, what do you do?
Well, what makes a purchase unlawful if it's valid and the board has decided to purchase it? That's a lawful purchase.
Just because the board makes a decision to purchase something does not make it lawful.
I think you're using the wrong, hold on, stop.
does.
No, both you guys, wait.
Doesn't.
We can't start, Kevin, I gotta tell you this. About a lawful purchase is totally different than what I think you're trying to say. Jameson, I know exactly what you're saying, and Kevin, I'm sorry, it doesn't mean it's not a lawful purchase. And unlawful purchase means it's a criminal act. Okay, we're not going there. That's
Well,
not what
that's-
you're talking about. I
that's-
get it. What we're talking about is you want to review something and put an extra set of eyes on it. And then Jameson is saying, I get your point. You're singling out. I don't know if you have that authority or not. I really don't.
I do.
Well,
don't.
you may, but I don't know if you really do. If you have the authority to stop what the board is, their job's
Can't
supposed to
stop
be.
the board unless it's illegal,
Yeah, I mean,
right? It's
so-
a valid
I don't,
purchase,
no,
right?
let's
Just
go
a
back
second
to
here.
what you originally said was,
don't wanna
the
do this
treasurer
again.
does not have to sign something, period.
No,
Does not.
that's not true. You are in contempt of the board, right? Which isn't a term in Michigan, or in misconduct of the board if you refuse to perform the
that's
will
a-
of the board when it is valid and there's money in the account.
That's not true.
It-
That
it
is
absolutely
totally
is.
not
I don't
true.
think
Could I
that's
have a
before
piece of
the
this floor
board
for a
tonight.
second?
Not
Yeah,
true.
you're right. It's not the point.
I think
Not
But
tonight-
my concern is I don't want to give one individual the authority to
Well,
stop
that's-
township business.
That's
Or do
where,
I?
But
that's
when we
where-
have our special projects
that's
meeting,
where-
that's one of the neat things we need to talk about is the whole process for signing and approving checks and everything. So I think that is worth a conversation all by itself. Tonight on the purchasing policy, you guys probably don't want to hear this, but I'm wondering if Greg wrote this document. It's a beautiful document.
You know, he does work for.
Yeah, he does. And one of the things on here is, okay,
That's not funny.
first column, the amount involved. Okay, then it goes on. Does it require a written quote? Does it require a sealed bid? Does it have department head approval? And it says on all these things, yes, you have to get the department head approval. And then it goes on to say Joe would also have to approve anything over a certain dollar threshold. And then it tells you the threshold that the board would also have to approve. It's a nice logical way to lay this out. It also has a footnote that says you can't artificially divide these up. So to get them through.
Yes,
But I do
that's-
know when employees do that, it's because it's too low and they can't get their job done. So we need to look at making a rule that they can live with and do their job.
That's
But
the
I
point
do
I-
think that this is really worth looking at, and you guys need to ask Greg if he wrote this,
Well,
because it's just
like,
really thought
I
out.
would like to go back to the point that there is a check and balance. I sign a check and the clerk signs a check. And if you check the checks, Mr. Clerk, then you have been part of the process. And when I had an issue with a particular item, I did bring it to you. And,
But
But when do you
that's
sign the
not
check, though? You're not supposed to sign checks until the board approves, which means there is an order of go, and then there is an order of authority, and the board is.
I don't sign checks before the board approves them.
is it our goal to argue
Look,
tonight or to stick to
No,
the
I
agenda?
think Kevin's
and
brought up some
resolve
good
this?
points, right? There should be additional oversight for some of this.
I need
for
to get in
getting
on this.
RFPs and RFQs out the door, right? We have had some go out the door that were not great, right? So if we need an additional level of oversight to make sure they're great, I agree. I just don't want it to be one person.
It
right?
should never be one person. It should always be multiple checks and balances. And that's where
And I mean,
the clerk comes in.
we approve the RFP in question. This board did.
If an officer gave you an order to do something that was illegal,
But this isn't illegal,
Yeah,
Kevin.
illegal, immoral.
It's not illegal.
and
Can I have the
unsafe
floor
are-
for a
is
minute?
Law.
If you
Joe.
were given an order to do something that you felt was not correct, you would not have to do it.
No, not correct is different than illegal. Illegal, immoral, or unsafe is a separate
Correct.
pyramid that is totally different in the.
Okay, let's not split hairs. You're
Yeah.
splitting hairs about
No, I'm just
if
telling
somebody,
you.
if somebody gives an order to do something, or if somebody tells me to sign a check that I don't feel comfortable signing, I'm not going to sign it.
Don't sign it, then I will. Okay.
Just a minute, okay?
Bill's been trying to comment.
I don't know what, yeah, Bill, go ahead.
Thank you. The fact that something is legal doesn't necessarily guarantee that it should be just passed right on through. This document with Macomb County on it makes the implication that I'm trying to clear, that I'm trying to talk about. You need to have the documentation clear so that everything processes properly. So in other words, you're not only allowing the money to pass, but you have a document you can reference in the future that has all of its required components together. This one here gives an example of how to assemble those components and who has the authority.
I mean, this
What
does
Kevin
too.
is
That's
talking
just
about
that.
is the absence of a necessary component in the passage of whatever is necessary for that act to be completed. This doesn't mean that what's been going on was illegal. It means that it was insufficient and something else had to be added or corrected.
And sometimes
And
it's
you
just
need to
not
keep
clear.
that in mind when you're working with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with it, I was in the government, I suppose, when I was in the Marine Corps. I was processing paper and the benefits in their life were at stake on this stuff. It had to be right. Everybody knows, we've got Section A, Section B, say you did that beautifully here with there. You got the various topics and items within them. But you might have some of the items, but not all. You're going to say, gee, I need this one other piece to make the whole thing work. That's where the issue is going on here, as I see it, and I think I heard Joey say that. I'm agreeing with you again tonight, Joey.
Yeah, you got me on that one.
Bill, you need to show that Marine side to all of us, buddy. I will make.
All right,
a copy
William,
for
thank you. Then the direction for tonight again, this is good. I mean, it's a good debate, obviously. The first two went smooth. This one, that's okay. That's what it's about. So, do we put an action item on? Do we look at this? And I'm just not quite clear, Kevin. I got to get exactly what you're talking about, because there are checks and balances, and I get it. The more eyes on it, the better. I don't think that. I mean, if you put two good eyes on something, I think that's just my opinion. It doesn't matter. But I think that we've had some issues in the past of maybe some managers weren't the best at writing up an RFP, an RFQ, or whatever they're writing up. And so that's a separate issue, I believe. And I don't believe anything has been overlooked. The board has the responsibility of okaying everything. So what is the next step? Does somebody have a recommendation at least? Obviously, we can't vote, but what would be a recommendation to look at least on the 4.8 situation here?
So I'm not comfortable with having another layer of approval before the board. If a department manager who we pay is providing us with an RFP, RFQ, if they have concerns or issues, I'm sure that they'll go to their manager. That would be Township Manager Thiel. Once this comes to us, we are that final authority. The majority rules that, and that's the way that in my opinion, the process and procedure should work. I'm not in alignment with what Mickey has suggested. I think having a more organized visualization of how this works is perfectly fine, but I have serious concerns with any sort of bottleneck or, hold up for the department managers until it gets to the board. I don't think there should be an additional layer. There's just no need for it.
I think since we've been here, and I just want to comment on what you're saying, Margaret. I think since we've been here, there's probably been one RFP, RFQ that was a little bit maybe not as clear as we'd like them to be. I think maybe the manager is going to get a little help if he has to do another one. Let's just say that I know Derek is an expert at this, and he's better than all of us, and I understand that. Sorry, Teresa, you're good too, but I think you two right there are probably the best we have. So I think that if we can maybe incorporate if there's an issue, but I don't think it automatically should come to Derek, and he has to review everything like that. But it's not a bad idea if we can come up with something palatable for both sides.
I mean, all the RFPs and RFQs go through the clerk's office to be posted, right? So Brian could always just have a checklist that's like, are these 6 things in there? You know,
So,
I mean, that could be a thing, right?
so
Okay.
where do you guys want to go? Again, I always say this, I'm not rushing you. I'm just saying that we need to make decisions. Even though we're not voting on things, we have to have a direction and a goal.
I'd like to recommend this move forward as an action item.
Okay?
Once, I'd like us to add in the split purpose. That seems to be missing. It would be optimal if perhaps we could put something together similar to, the benchmark that Mickey provided. But otherwise, the way that it's written up, I trust our department managers. I trust that they're going to, anybody that has questions or concerns with writing an RFP, they know that they have an expert that they have available to them, and that's who they can go to. And I would trust that if for any reason we have any concerns, then we can handle that at the board level.
Okay.
No.
Any other, Mark?
Yeah, I agree with most of what Ms. Shelton said, or Trustee Shelton said. I still think we should have some type of essential point of oversight, which would be Derek, in my opinion. And I do have a question as to the threshold too, the $10,000 threshold. But aside of that, I would be in agreement with Ms. Shelton there, but I still think we need the extra layer that she does not want. I still think we should have like a facility type management. I mean, it should go through one central point. To check the I's, dot the T's, and make sure the RFQ, RFP, whatever the case is put out correctly.
Derek, let me ask you a question. Right now, a department head, Joe Porcelli,
Chief of police.
running the, something down here at the end of the airport, and that's all I could do. And I wanted to put out an RFP for something. So I put out an RFP for something because I want something that was not budgeted. And I'm not sure how often that does come up, that it's not budgeted, but they do. They come up now and then, as we just saw. Okay, that RFP comes back. Do you ever get a phone call from these managers to assist?
Sometimes they'll come to me and ask for assistance or the best way to craft up that RFP or what professional to get involved in to assist them with it. Sometimes that does happen. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a sentence in here of the assistance of the township manager may be not obtained. What would be the correct verbiage? I guess you could say that.
Support,
Well,
I'm
I think
sorry?
over support, or an
I just
overview.
think Derek's already really busy. He's got like 3 jobs and all kinds of stuff. If Brian is capable of this, would he not be sufficient oversight just to make sure the packet is administratively accurate, correct, and meets township policy?
I guess he could, but my point is, it's about not just the accuracy, but about what you're requesting.
Content.
Yeah, be more but what you're actually requesting from those individuals. I'm just asking though.
The development of it.
Yeah, I was just asking, do they come to you?
Sometimes they do.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't.
And
All right.
sometimes they don't.
Okay.
And
I think,
the clerk does have the opportunity to review these items before they are presented.
Talking
I
about Brian,
believe.
or are you talking about Jameson?
Well,
Jameson's the
he
clerk.
operates under my delegated authority, so I can
Well-
review him.
Yeah.
I try to, I think, again, we're not creating a bottleneck, we're creating a check and balance for the taxpayers. And that's what I'm pushing for. I think this covers some of it, it doesn't cover all of it.
Okay. Anybody else?
yeah, I had one quick thought here on this.
One quick one, Bill.
Yeah. Derek was talking about the fact that sometimes I'm talking now about the non-budgeted RFQ. Sometimes he knows and sometimes he doesn't. There's a potential there for a little leak in the system. And if it isn't budgeted, it's coming out of our savings account. I'm suggesting that some kind of language be addressed to try and reduce the likelihood that that will occur.
Bill, hold on, I got to cut you off. When you refer to our savings account, each department has their own budget. Are you saying that if they have something where they don't have any money, it comes out of ours? Because we don't really do it that way.
As you phrase that question, I don't know that I was addressing that with my thoughts. What I was thinking in the simplest terms possible was that Derek had this document sitting in front of him. It said it's his job to say, I approve this and we'll pay it. And my mind was not deciding on whether it was coming from the general fund budget or the budget for the whatever department.
Because usually if they don't have the money in their department, it doesn't really come out of,
Yeah, it would have to be, they would have to adjust their budget.
yeah, we don't
I
really.
think, just to refresh, the policy currently states that if something is in their budget, they can pursue an RFP without board approval. If it is not in their budget, they have to come to the board for approval to pursue an RFP, and ultimately, then it would come back again to authorize the purchase. So there is verbiage in here right now that
Covers the
controls
issue.
that.
But what I hear is that it probably in actual practice, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I don't know that that's the case. I think
That's what I heard, I think.
What I had mentioned is sometimes the manager reaches out to me for assistance with an RFP development, budgeted or unbudgeted. And sometimes they don't.
And that's where I heard what I heard. If it's unbudgeted and not in his budget, where does the money come from if he's overspending his budget?
They have to come to you and tell you, this is how I'm going to make this work.
Got
I'm
it.
asking you to authorize the issuance of the RFP, and then they're beholden to you to explain to you how that's going to
And why it's important.
why is it
And we have to
important, where's the
obviously
money
change then we have to do an amendment. I mean, let's just say we okay something that comes out of the fund, whatever. Let's say something emergency that the fire department or the police department, or DP, anybody needs, then we have to make an amendment, Bill, and then we have to go into the fund balance, which is totally, I mean, that's kind of a separate issue. That's not really how.
Yeah, and if you look at any of the action items that we have, if they are of a financial nature, you'll see that there's a financial impact line on there, and whether it's budgeted or unbudgeted, what the expense is and which account it comes out of. So
Okay,
you can
so-
see it happening.
So do I add this on and we vote on it and then move forward without more changes during that next, I'm sorry, Derek, I don't know the date of that next study session.
Oh, the 8th?
No, the study session.
Oh, the 8th, I think.
The
Joe,
8th.
Joe,
Yeah,
you
yes.
talking about putting this on for voting on it at the next meeting?
Yeah, what we've got so far, and then if we need to make changes.
Well, I'd like to have us all look at what Mickey was so excited about out of Macomb
I
Township.
think we can do a lot better with our policy. I
All I'm
do.
saying is it's information we can learn with, maybe.
So maybe I can make a suggestion. Maybe I take a stab at some of these changes that have been discussed tonight, and then provide it to you in the packet for the 13th. And then you can review those, and maybe we have it as a discussion item if you want to make modifications to that revised draft. And then at the subsequent meeting, you can approve it if everybody's in support of those modifications.
I'd like to see it just edited quite a bit. I'm looking at this policy and I'm telling you, it's golden. And they thought of a lot of things that we didn't think of, plus even paragraphs with headings and making it clear so our employees can follow it and there's no disagreement because the language is tight. But again, that's my thought, and I would
Yeah.
even be willing to
I
help
can
do some
you know,
drafting.
make an effort to put something together. I would just hate for you guys to be presented something at or around the 13th and then being asked to vote on that without having time to digest it, review it.
I
Thank
think
you.
you need time
Thank
to
you.
Yeah, we can
digest
do
it.
that.
That work?
That can work.
Okay.
Mickey, I think that can work. We can.
So a
Get that
rewrite would, I gave it.
I think
gave
if
him a
you're
copy.
going to like include like structural rewrites with like level 1 and 2 headings and everything, you have to do the entire policies and procedures. You can't
Like,
have
I
one
would-
section look totally different than everything else. That's crazy.
Who are you talking to? You know, like OCD is going to
I
kick
know,
in.
me
like,
too. I'm like, we can't
every
have-
heading will be there, every section, every bullet.
All right, so are we good with that?
But Derek, I would help you if you did it. That's what I'm
I
saying.
think that would be wonderful, Mickey, if you would do that.
You want to work with me, Derek? Why are you looking funny like that?
Absolutely.
Why are you looking
No,
funny?
no issue whatsoever. I don't know if I can keep up with you. I'm not an
Like,
attorney.
do I have to?
Do I need to
have
come in and sit in between you two?
I would be happy to help with that too, Derek, since I have opinions or concerns about it.
Very good. All right, Kevin, thank you. Thank you, Mickey. Anything of the three issues? I mean, I guess we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
And I need a second.
Second.
All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried. Adjourned at 7:35. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.